Okay. So I don't know what it is, but my kids, and it's like in that general age group, they're so they are so hypersensitive to like that those types of things like privacy and like government stuff and like they have a very I think it's very much so Gen Alpha because most of my kids are Gen Alpha. I mean, except for the ones that are like Nikki and stuff.
Okay.
But that group, they're like very anti-government.
If you think about their upbringing versus our upbringing, think about how different they are in terms of the access to information. And I think now, because of all of this access to information, your kids and my kids, they know that veil has been pierced and that trust has been eroded. And so I have a feeling the libertarian mindset is going to become even more pervasive.
The direction of where the world really, or Western values in America is going is a rise in, I think, libertarian values and libertarian leadership.
Isn't that, go ahead.
Because, and I say that only because that allows more freedom for the individual and that allows more people to express themselves more. Hey, you know, to what's the other old guy? Schumer and who's the other guy? McConnell. Who just fell.
Mitch McConnell.
You see that he fell? Did you see Mitch McConnell fell again?
I heard about that. He needs to.
That's the guy that's leading us right there. Those are our leaders right there, right? Those are that inspires confidence, right? And I'm not trying to make fun of anybody's physical competence or physical ability.
But once you get to a certain age, exactly.
Len, you can't lead anymore, dude. Men and women want to see vibrance and that's what they want to see in a leader. They want to see that, right?
A government for the people, of the people, right? Where we have the right and we have the say in the direction of government. And where we are right now, Chris, is that we've gone away from this idea. Like we've been taught that we're the freest country, that we have the most liberties and all of this of any other country in the world. And I think there's some degree of truth to that, but I think that's part of the big lie. And let me explain what I mean by that. A government for the people, of the people, right? Where we have the right and we have the say in the direction of government. And where we are right now, Chris, is that we've gone away from this idea. Like we've been taught that we're the freest country, that we have the most liberties and all of this of any other country in the world. And I think there's some degree of truth to that, but I think that's part of the big lie. And let me explain what I mean by that. That's the thing about living in a place that's governed by laws. You're not going to agree with everything and you're not going to agree with every law, but for the common good, sometimes you have to make compromise.
Why is it so important for them to keep that? Why is it so important for the Democrats to keep affordable healthcare? It has not made healthcare any more affordable. Why is it so important?
But
healthcare has gotten more expensive since it's not got. Why are they so stuck? Because they're falling on the sword right now. And I didn't even think about that. They're keeping it shut down because they know they can't vote to extend that. Why are they so stuck on that policy? Why can't we why? We need a third party system. We need someone else in there to crack these guys out of power. And it needs to be violent. Violent because these guys have been so stuck in, and not violent meaning war or catastrophe or, I mean, violent meaning like
you mean revolutionary, like
but
quick
not like
change.
Violence in this. Yeah,
you're not talking physical violence. You're talking about a revolutionary change.
No.
I know what you. I understand what you meant. I'm glad you clarified it though. Yeah.
We need a third party system. We need someone else in there to crack these guys out of power, and it needs to be violent. Violent because these guys have been so stuck in. And not violent meaning war or catastrophe or, I mean, violent meaning like
you mean revolutionary, like
but
quick
not like
change.
Violence in this. Yeah,
you're not talking physical violence. You're talking about a revolutionary change.
No.
I know what you. I understand what you meant. I'm glad you clarified it though. Yeah.
If he was a king, he would have shut that down.
That's not the point, Chris. That's not the
silly
point.
Premise. Okay, but how is he a king?
No, the point.
He won the popular vote. He won the electoral vote, and he won the swings. How
Okay.
was he a king?
No. It's not the argument is not that he is a king and that he's operating with king. He is abusing his executive power. That's the issue.
Okay, wait a minute. I would rather have a narcissist like Trump leading than a corrupt career politician who we know is all corrupt.
Okay, if those are the only two options, I agree with you.
I'll take the narcissist.
Yes, but a narcissist unchecked becomes a dictator in wrong situations.
But I don't have to worry about that because
hopefully,
there's nothing he can do. There's nothing Trump can do to become a dictator or a king in America. You don't want it to be successful.
No.
It's successful.
I hope.
You're hoping it is successful.
I'm not a Trump fan, but as an American citizen who has a president, I want that president to be effective. I want that president to do what's right for the people.
Welcome to the Family Office, planning for the people who matter most.
Do you have the opportunity to talk to kids like in the 15 range, or maybe I would say probably more towards like the 10 to 18 range? Do you get an opportunity to talk to kids that age or no?
Not regularly. I still connect with school districts and things like that periodically, but I wouldn't say that it was a lot to say that it was something regular.
Okay. So I don't know what it is, but my kids, and it's like in that general age group, they are so hypersensitive to like those types of things like privacy and like government stuff. And like they have I think it's very much so Gen Alpha because most of my kids are Gen Alpha. I mean, except for the ones that are like Nikki and stuff.
Okay.
But that group, they're like very anti-government and very like pro, like, for example, my son just spent like $100 on hair care product. Right? It's not anything that you and I would know is in the store. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, it's all like craft stuff that's like made with like very conscientious ingredients.
Yeah, non-GMO, right.
Non-paraben and all that. And I'm just like, and even the gum, like my son chews this gum. It's like $25 for a pack of gum, but there's no of the weird normal stuff.
What? $25, bro?
It's, I don't know why, but
wow.
There's an agreement that got made with him that every grading period, every A he gets a $20 for every A.
Okay.
And both of my kids that made this agreement, they don't get anything but A's. So it's kind of almost like going, can you get
did I make rooting for a B?
Can we get a couple of B's in this grading group?
Right.
But interestingly enough, yes, they're very paranoid about that kind of stuff. They're very conscientious about that stuff. So
yeah,
like the privacy thing here that I was showing you earlier, this right here.
Right.
I asked them, I said, why is that there? And they're like, so no one can look at you, Dad. And I'm like, so no one cares. Right. But yet you're going to sit there with this, but they put the crap over this too.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, dang, even on your smartphone there, son. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So children.
I get it. It makes sense to me. But keep going. Finish your thought.
I just say kids today, I'm very excited for them because a lot of times, I mean, you and I are like of the next generation, right? That's like, hopefully if I had a shocking reality the other day, but when I was driving in my car the other day, and I'll share it with you, I was thinking about you. But if the baby boomers secede their control of the world, like you and I are next in line, right? Because we're like kind of like Gen X, I don't know. You're more Gen X than I am. I'm more because I'm born in 1981, so I'm like first year
borderline millennial, like, right?
Yeah. But then I was like driving in my car the other day, and I was like, and I don't know, I was going to pick up my kids, and then something happened and I was just driving my car and I just, oh my God. Right. And then I went, oh my God, I'm becoming a baby boomer right now. And I have a lot of baby boomer traits and baby boomer habits. I got to tell Len. But maybe
funny.
he'll call me out on them.
That's so funny. You know, I was thinking about what you said with your kids, because if you think about their upbringing versus our upbringing, think about how different they are in terms of the access to information. Because for me, I would say Google became a thing when I was an adult, like a young adult. And so we had encyclopedias and things like that, but it wasn't information that was readily available, and also in non-mainstream forms, because a lot of the information you and I got when we were growing up was pretty much curated. NBC, ABC, CBS, you had a couple of external outlets and things like that, but most of it was just curated. So therefore, we didn't have access to all of these different streams of information. And then when you have different people like whistleblowers, like we talked about Assange, and he talked about NSA and what they did to actually have the ability technologically to infiltrate and move beyond that veil of privacy. I believe that you and I grew up under this belief that privacy was supreme, and the government really, they honored that. And I think now, because of all of this access to information, your kids and my kids, they know that veil has been pierced and that trust has been eroded. And so I have a feeling the libertarian mindset is going to become even more pervasive. And I wouldn't be surprised if during the course of our lifetime, you have the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, and the Libertarian Party, and a lot of people, or independent, maybe somewhere with the independent and libertarian. I think there needs to be a 3-party system at least, because there's a lot of people who are free thinkers who don't necessarily fit perfectly in those 2 boxes. And I would say you and I on different issues probably fall into that. Like, you talk about the fact that you're libertarian. I talk about the fact that I'm a registered independent. I think our kids are increasingly going to, meander or go into that way when they decide to register to vote. So what are your thoughts about that?
So you think it's ultimately a natural, almost like a natural thing that's happening, where you and I, more so you than me, had curated, because I was born in 81. So I grew up with seeing Reagan and then Bill Clinton and a lot of excess and a lot of American supremacy and, G.I. Joe and all that stuff. But at the same time, I still sought out additional information as you did, but that's obviously just in our character makeup. But as a mass general and whole, I think that you're onto something there, where you say, look, the reason why these kids coming up today are looking at all these things is because they have access to more information than you and I had. So the natural human mindset or human being is gonna look at that, because I think the natural human is gonna go, this is bullshit. What's going on right now? So, and it's evident too, because when you go and you look at, like, even if you go on Instagram or you go on any type of short where it's an advertisement or something, you go in the comments and it's just spammed, like, nice advertisement, nice this, you're full of crap, scam, and you're just like, these kids are just so hyperactive awareness to that. And that's a good point that you bring up right there, that I think that's something that I never thought of, that I'm going to really watch closely. And that is that the proliferation, you're saying that we could possibly see a proliferation or strong growth of libertarian viewpoints in this generation, or libertarian mindset. And that would be actually, if you want to actually know, because I was watching something the other day and they're saying, Trump's not going to fix the economy. Trump's not going to fix prices. Like, all this stuff is happening, right? Like the statistic just came out the other day. The top things that people are concerned about still: grocery prices, electric utility costs, rent costs, all these natural things that were always sacred in the political world. Like, politicians would always lower gas, lower food, lower rent, lower. It's not happening anymore. It's just not. And I think that, everyone's like, oh my God, who's going to save the world, right? And Trump could put in good policy. Any politician could do that. But the policies, by and large, that he's putting in right now, they're good, I think, from an overall standpoint. And this is going to wrap this up for you, Len. I don't want your brain to boil right now. Trump right now. But What I think is happening is they're good generally because they're more conservative, more pro-business types of policies. But let's not lie here. They're mostly good for the people that are around him and the people that know how to work that system or that wave that's happening right now, right? So those who know how to ride the wave are going to ride the wave, but the majority of people don't know how to do that. It's just going to fall behind the wayside. So the answer I think that you're on right now, that I think you just made a very good point that I'm actually think I'm interested to watch that track. That is that the only thing that I think can save the direction of where the world really, or Western values in America is going, is a rise in, I think, libertarian values and libertarian leadership.
Isn't that, go ahead.
Because, and I say that only because that allows more freedom for the individual and that allows more people to express themselves more. Look, if you want to go smoke stuff, go smoke it. If you want to go do stuff, go do it. The government's paying for you to do it anyways, right? Safe needle programs and methadone clinics. So we might as well just have a baseline and say, hey, look, and I know this has been tossed around a lot by very extreme libertarians, like legalize all drugs, right? You would essentially end a lot of people's incomes, jobs, all that stuff, because demand happens. When we saw this with prohibition, demand increases when you take it away from somebody. It's just built into human wiring, right? You can't do that. Ooh, why can't I do that, right? So I think the proliferation and the rise of libertarian values gives people more freedom, more choice, and it ultimately challenges the monopoly that is the United States of America, which is the Democrat Republican Party, which we all know at the end of the day, they're just like lawyers. When the judge's gavel falls and the judge says case closed, case dismissed, court adjourned, regardless if you were the defense or the prosecution, at the end of the day, they're both at the same bar, at the same club going, that was a good one, baby. And at the end of the day, when the government is still shut down, and it's still shut down, right? I mean,
It absolutely is.
Did you see, I know, Len, I'm going on for a long time. Did you see, he's the sportscaster, Stephen A. Smith. Did you see him destroying those guys on stage the other day, all those senators and congressmen the other day? And he walked up because he said, y'all still getting paid. While this guy that's working his job that was asking the question, the audience had to get up and leave because he said, hey, I got to go do DoorDash. While those mofos are still sitting there getting paid.
That's right.
So at the end of the day, yes, the Republicans and the Democrats, when they're all right now going, for example, Schumer is going, hey, to what's the other old guy? Schumer and who's the other guy? McConnell. Mitch McConnell. You see that he fell? You see Mitch McConnell fell again?
I heard about that. He needs to.
That's the guy that's leading us right there. Those are our leaders right there, right? Those are that inspires confidence, right? And I'm not trying to make fun of anybody's physical competence or physical ability.
But once you get to a certain age, exactly.
Len, you can't lead anymore, dude. Men and women want to see vibrance, and that's what they want to see in a leader. They want to see that, right? So at the end of the day, Schumer, I bet, and what's his name? And I just said McConnell. Thank you. Getting all excited here. Are going, hey, what club do you want to go hunting at today while the government's still shut down? Because we ain't got to work and we're still getting paid. A challenge to that two-party system is the only thing that saves America.
I agree.
Sorry, Len, it was long-winded. That was a rant right
No,
there.
Man. I think typically
you made the point though. It's your fault.
Right. And what you bring up about this idea about a third party or even a fourth party is really in alignment with what the whole Democratic Republic was supposed to be in the beginning, which is a government for the people, of the people, right? Where we have the right and we have the say in the direction of government. And where we are right now, Chris, is that we've gone away from this idea. Like we've been taught that we're the freest country, that we have the most liberties and all of this of any other country in the world. And I think there's some degree of truth to that, but I think that's part of the big lie. And let me explain what I mean by that. This idea that our thoughts are our own, this idea that our freedoms are wide and true are just not true. It's just been lies that we've been told. And so because we've been told what to think and what to believe, you have this new generation of people who have access to all types of media out there, including a forum and a platform like this, which is why I believe that there's going to be a revolution of thought, because what's going to happen is, before, when we were subjugated to ABC, NBC, CBS and all of those four major outlets, we didn't have the ability to go fact check. We didn't have forums like Reddit. We didn't have a Joe Rogan show. We didn't have whatever would be the equivalent on the left, right? You didn't have the Midas Touch. You didn't have the Young Turks. And all of these different platforms, you can go compare bits and pieces of information, because those platforms, they publish and they talk about things that are important to them from their perspective. And you have these different fact checkers called the chat that says, nope, you're not right, because X, Y, and Z, 1, 2, and 3 says this. And so before, there were no fact checking mechanisms. And because of that, we just believed what we were told, because the person was good looking. They spoke confidently with their eyes in the camera, and they made it believable. I saw a TED talk, and there was a guy that was talking, and he was, very believable. And he says, you know what, a certain amount of people die because of this, but, actually people who smoke, many of them actually live long, and statistics say this and that and that. And he said it in such a believable way. And then his next sentence was really interesting. He said, all that stuff I just said, none of it's true. But your mind is geared to believe what I say is true if I say it with confidence. And I think that's what's happening, is that right now, the government is in a position right now where they're trying to play psychological mind tricks on us by telling us that these ideas and these laws are good, while you have this degradation of these checks of these checks of balance and power. So like, you have the executive, you have the legislative, and you have the judicial branches. And right now, those three aren't effectively checking each other. And to me, that is the foundation of a democracy. And so when you have the executive branch that's trying to push and force many of these ideas, like, for example, how do you go to the military and say, now we're the Department of War? And just unilaterally make that declaration? There should be a process to that, and there should be Congress, and there should be the judicial system that's a part of that process in the way that it was originally intended. So my response to what you're saying is, I believe, and I agree with you, that there needs to be at least one more party, because then that way we have a wider range of ideas, so people can understand that these are ideas that more closely align with my philosophy and my worldview. Because that's the reason why I registered independent, because I was like, okay, when I look at the Democratic Party, like, I'm much more conservative than many of them. And when I look at the Republican Party, I'm much more liberal than many of them in certain areas. Like, fiscally, I'm conservative. Socially, I'm more liberal leaning, but my Christian worldviews go in contrast with a lot of the very far left liberal ideology. So I don't fit in any of those boxes. I don't have any issue with people who exercise that. And that's why, going back to what you said about just letting drugs be, what would you say? Delegalizing. What's the word? Decriminalizing. Yes.
Obviously, you're not giving access, but it's decriminalized.
Yes, exactly.
Waste of resource.
I disagree with the whole idea of using hard drugs that can kill you, but at the same time, it's not going to stop people from doing it, and you can't legislate morality. So because of that I align with that belief that drugs should be decriminalized, even though I fundamentally, as an individual, disagree with that lifestyle. But at the same time, that's the thing about living in a place that's governed by laws. You're not going to agree with everything, and you're not going to agree with every law, but for the common good, sometimes you have to make compromises.
So if Gavin Newsom loses his hair, he's finished, is what you're saying. He won't look good anymore. I mean,
Hey, that's a good looking dude, man.
He's done. He's finished. He's absolutely finished if he loses his hair.
That's funny.
Look, I just think that you could corroborate the information of what you just said in regards to, like, anytime the government tries to control anything, and the government has a history of doing that. I mean, it's just absolutely bonkers.
That's right.
I mean, I would say that, I mean, obviously it was happening, but because it's based on human nature. People just, and it's not that it's the government doing it, it's the people inside the government, right?
For sure, 100%.
People will say,
but they use that entity as a way to broker power. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I agree with that.
So it's not so much as it's the government. It's not the government. It's the people in the government, right?
Yes,
which is why we need term limits. Right? But for example, I think and I think that we started to see the proliferation of government abuse probably like post World War I or right around that era. Nobody really even knows why World War I was even started. I mean, yeah, it was Archduke Francis D. Ferdinand, but no one really even knows beyond that why that war was started in the first place. And it goes with what I say all the time, and I know a lot of people will echo this with me, is constant war in Europe. Like, I don't care what the scene was behind it. America was dragged into so many wars, and now we get lambasted for being stuck in all the wars that the rest of this world caused. And I don't care. I mean, there's a lot of different viewpoints on it. Yeah, America is brokering its power and pushing its power and all that stuff. At the end of the day, I don't want to get onto that subject. I want to stay here. Cigarettes, for example, like there's this big thing, and I'm curious. I wanted to ask you about it. Nicotine. I've been seeing this a lot. Like, nicotine is, everyone's like, oh, nicotine's the addictive thing. And there's a lot of people that take nicotine for health benefits. Did you know that? Have you seen that lately?
I've not heard that.
Yes. Yeah. It's just peripheral bit. I started doing some research, but in 1970, do you know, that the government legalized it's a Harvard study. It's like government legalized like 16 or 30 types of addictive chemicals that are in cigarettes.
Say that one more time.
The government in around 1970 legalized like 16 or 30 chemicals.
Wow, that are addictive, huh?
Something like phthalates or something like that are in cigarettes that are addictive.
That's
and the
crazy.
Government allows Philip Morris to put those in there. Right. But then we also, it's the nicotine, right? So now, those things that people put here now.
The skull. Yeah. Chewing
it's
tobacco.
Just straight nicotine. It's just straight nicotine. That's all it is.
Interesting.
And it's filling liquor store shelves everywhere. No one's buying cigarettes anymore because cigarettes are evil, right? But now Philip Morris and all these guys are selling just nicotine pouches because that again is because the government somewhere is manipulating the market or pushing or forcing the market. And that's exactly what you were just talking about. It's not that you can't, you just cannot trust you cannot trust a special interest group. You cannot trust governments, and not because they're evil, because the people that are allowed to stay there for so long. And that was the biggest issue we had with monarchies and dictatorships and all those different types of things, because same people stay in power. And here in America, you people are going to figure out, like, a lock keeps honest people out. If a criminal wants to get in, they're going to figure it out. And that's kind of what you're seeing right here. So that's why you see like the proliferation of these career people that stay in politics, like Governor Gavin Newsom, who destroyed a city and then destroyed a state and now wants to be president and just wants to destroy a country. And it's like, bro, like, seriously, like, that is where you need a third party. Because choice is what drives the market. Choice is what drives the market. And you only have two choices right now. And the problem with the independent party, because I've heard that I heard that was always, well, I'm just going to be an independent instead. That was always the thing in the 90s, right? When you were dissatisfied. But it's not sexy. And you need something sexy. You need something sexy and is completely radically different. Independents are just not radically different. They sway votes. You saw that with Donald Trump this election cycle, 100%, right? But I think what you also saw outside of independence was you saw Black men vote for Trump. You saw Mexican Americans vote for Trump. You saw all these different changes, and that's what changed a lot of that voter base. because people are now responding, I think, and this ties back to what you mentioned, libertarian viewpoints. Libertarian viewpoints and libertarianism is always about results, right? It's much so about results. Like, what can we do to generate results? And that's what you're seeing with these younger generations. It's like, results matter. Results freaking matter, guys. And you're getting the same results with Republicans, and you're getting the same results with Democrats. And like I said, at the end of the day, Chuck Schumer and I still can't remember his name, but you're going to say it.
Yes.
Mitch McConnell
yeah.
are calling each other and are happy about this because they're still getting paid and they're still able to. And who cares about their salaries, guys? They don't care about their salaries. These guys don't care about their salaries. These guys care about the corporate kickbacks and all of those things. So that kind of ties me in, Len. Unless you wanted to make another point, because I was going to.
No, I think that was a perfect segue to talk about the shutdown and dig a little deeper into what's going on with it.
And I mean, why? And I know the biggest complaint here is the medical stuff, right? And we wanting to pay for more and all of those things. So I think you're going to beat me here. I didn't think it was going to go this long, and Trump has changed his strategy, where Trump has now, and here's why. And you're going to hate me for this, and then I'm going to let you. I'm curious to know, because you've seen it, you called it, you said it was going to go longer. I didn't. So far, you're looking like you're going to win. But I think Trump changed his strategy now because Trump has just built this moat around him, where he has become he's just become Teflon. I mean, at this point, you can't look. There's some stuff right now where I'm kind of like, Trump, what the hell are you doing, dude? But it's Teflon. He has Teflon on him right now, and I don't know if that's the he's not electable thing again, or what it is. But this government shutdown is. I don't think it matters as much as it does, but I think it's a disgrace. I'm curious what your thoughts are or where you're at with it, Len, because I just think it's just like, what are these guys doing?
Yeah, it's really unfortunate because both sides are using their leverage to hurt other people. And so when you have a shutdown, you have millions of people who are being furloughed and some that are asked to come to work and not get paid. That's absolutely ridiculous when you look at air traffic controllers and what they're having to go through and still have to show up to work, because if they don't show up, people die. And so when you look at just air traffic control in America, it's not just confined to America, because you have international flights coming in. So there's a worldwide implication as to why air traffic controllers are an essential part of how the government functions. Teachers are an essential part of how the government functions. And so if you allow these folks to either not get paid or to come and to work for free, eventually they're going to find other ways to make money, because as individuals, they're going to say, look, 3, 4, 5 months of this, I can't control what's going on in my household because I haven't saved enough money. I can't take care of my family. So you have the realities of what people are experiencing on the one hand versus the political gamesmanship that Congress is playing on the other hand. So what's really the issue? The issue is this. The Republicans, they say, you know what? Let's move forward. Let's keep things status quo so we can open up the government and then make decisions down the line. And the Democrats are saying, well, wait a minute. 2021, they made a decision to push back the different benefits of the Affordable Care Act. And so what that means is that those benefits, they go away at the end of 2025. So the Democrats know that if we open up the government and things are business as usual, the Republicans control the House and the Senate, and therefore they're not going to vote again to allow medical coverage under the Affordable Care Act to continue after 2025. That begins to usher out, quote unquote, Obamacare. And so the Democrats are saying, forget that.
Let me ask you something, Len.
Yeah.
By the way, you're making such an amazing point right now where I'm sitting here and I'm going, oh my God, Why is it so important for them to keep that? Why is it so important for the Democrats to keep affordable healthcare? It has not made healthcare any more affordable. Why is it so important?
But that's
healthcare has gotten more expensive since it's not got. Why are they so stuck? Because they're falling on the sword right now. And I didn't even think about that. They're keeping it shut down because they know they can't vote to extend that. Why are they so stuck on that policy? Why can't we just, why?
okay. So the real issue is the lowest income earning individuals pay significantly less for healthcare, and having access to be able to get treatment for cancer, to be able to have a surgery for their child who has congestive heart failure. Those are real issues that they hear about from their constituents. And so if this whole idea of 2025 access to subsidies goes away at the end of 2025, for them, they're not going to have the same access, and the prices will significantly go up. Now, here's the argument that the other side is making, is that the cost for healthcare has always increased over time, just like the cost of college. But getting subsidies to pay for that increase is really what makes the difference. And so what the government is doing with the Affordable Care Act is, even though the prices for care is going up, they're increasing the amount in which they pay to help offset that increase. So the real answer, because I agree with you to a certain extent, that the whole medical system in America needs to change, but there's no easy answer to that. And when Trump was running, one of the debates he had, they asked him point blank, like, what are you going to do? You talked about repealing and replacing Obamacare. What are your plans to do that? And he didn't give a specific answer. And the reality is, because the medical system in America, changing that is very, very hard, because you're talking about, in certain situations, life and death. And so the person who has to pay hundreds or even thousands more for the same level of care, for them, that could mean they die. And so that's the real crux of the matter. And if you don't, so I think there needs to be a complete overhaul, but right now there's no specific answer. So I'll end my point with this. There have been pilot programs in different cities where you have one, like, for example, the hospital at home. So instead of having to go to the hospital to get care, you have different people coming to the home. I happen to know this just because of the field that I'm in. And so that's a very financially effective way to manage care, because staying in a hospital facility costs 3 and 4 and 5 times more to provide that same level of care that somebody could do in the house. So there's other programs that people have employed where you have more of a preventative approach to healthcare. And so because the whole system has not yet morphed into a different philosophy, both sides are going to be stuck and entrenched in their positions. And so the Democrats aren't going to let that go. And so the Republicans don't want that to happen. So they're in this stalemate. I don't see this ending before the record of 35 days.
I don't think it's going to end this year.
I don't think so. I agree with you.
At this point,
I agree with you.
What we can tell in history, factually, and this is where we just kind of look, and this is where people we just kind of look at this more pragmatically, I guess. I don't know. History and facts have shown us that if we want to reduce the cost of anything, we do what? The free market. When there's a free market, competition, prices reduce.
Yes.
It's as simple. Whenever the government comes in and starts meddling with this crap, that's when it becomes this way. And the government has been meddling with healthcare for a long time. And here's the problem with it. Look, I understand the whole issue with that, with needing those types of things. I get it. I'm about that. But I think the smarter approach to it, and I'm not an expert, and I could just be talking out my neck here right now, which I do it a lot often.
You and me both,
which
man.
is great. It's awesome, right?
Right.
But here's the thing. Check it out. If you're not making good money, or you could be making $60,000, $80,000 a year, and you live in California, you don't have to worry about healthcare because you can get on Medi-Cal and get free healthcare in California. Now, the downside to that, it doesn't matter if you are in the state of California, you can get medical care. You are not going to die on the street or die in a hospital or get a cancer diagnosis and not get it treated. If you are in the state of California, you will be taken care of. There's no doubt about it, right? But the backside to that is the state is teetering on the brink of bankruptcy. And we all know this. The state is in disarray financially. Like, what was it the other day? They can't find the $20 billion that they allocated for homeless stuff for the last 5 years. No one knows where it is. And then the government hires these two-bit investigative journalists to go out and see what's going on. Oh, we're starting to crack down now. We found 2 cases of fraud where it was $1 million that this person did in fraudulent. Even if it was $10 million, even if it was $100 million
drop in the
fraud
bucket
that you found with these 2 people, you're talking about $20 billion. Excuse me, but that $20 billion could solve a lot of healthcare problems.
I agree.
That's a big budget right there. So here's my point to that. Okay. If you have let's say you and I are making let's say you're making $250,000 a year. That's a decent salary today in America, right? If you're making $250,000, you can live comfortably in almost every state, right? I think California, you need $277,000, I think is what the latest is to live comfortably, whatever that metric is. To me, comfortably, just so we can kind of set a baseline is, you can live in a 5,000 square foot house in a gated community and drive a 6-figure car.
Gotcha.
Okay. Because to me, I don't know if you remember, we did a meeting one time, Len, in 2016. And someone asked a question. They said, what do you want? I said, I want to live in a 10,000 square foot house in a gated community, and I want to drive multiple 6-figure cars.
I remember that.
That took 300. And I said the number, and they asked, what's the number for that? And I said $350,000 a year. That was back in 2016. I was thinking that way. Okay. So let's say you're making $250,000. Things are good. You got health insurance, yada, 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 yada. You get that, God forbid, that cancer diagnosis. You're still screwed. However, guess what happens? Oh my God, I got a cancer diagnosis. And here's what affordable health care in my mind would mean. Okay? No problem, Mr. Smith. You live in Kentucky. You live in Texas, whatever. Name any ultra conservative state that doesn't have a Medi-Cal program like California. Okay? Like California. Okay, cool. Emergency medicine only, right? Because the reality is acute medicine is the best in America. Look, if you are in a car accident and you don't have health insurance and you're in Indiana and you go to the ER, they have to take you, they have to treat you, right?
Correct.
It's a law, right? Which I agree with, by the way. Okay. However, because you live in America, like this isn't a third world country. Like, this is America. You should go wherever you go and be treated as an American citizen. You should be enjoying the fruits of this country. This land is my land. This land is your land. Like, we ought to sing that in Congress every day when they get up, right? They ought to sing that nursery rhyme. You know what I'm talking about? That song,
I
right?
do.
They used to sing that.
Yes.
Right? Right? This land, they used to sing that, right? No problem, Len. You got a cancer diagnosis, and guess what? Your deductible is $50,000, or the cancer your insurance is only going to cover this much, whatever, because of the private health insurance, whatever. No problem. Doctor sends your note in or says, Len has this cancer and it's going to cost this. And you go on the government website or the government affordable healthcare app, and you don't even maybe even have to do that. Your doctor does it and submits that to Affordable Health. Affordable Health then pings you and says, Len, do you have this stuff? Do you certify this? No problem. Cool. Guess what? Affordable Health Care Act is going to pay that for you. Done deal. Once your treatment is done, affordable health care doesn't pay anymore and you go on with your life. If you become terminal, affordable health care is going to step in. You're done. We do this in the private insurance world all the time. I understand why the government can't think that way. And by the way, also, why can't you say, you know what? I have a medical emergency, because this is what us private citizens do, right? I have a medical emergency. Pull up your affordable health care app. Where do you want to pick it from, Len? You got $870,000 in contributions towards your Social Security fund. You could tap that, but you can't because the government hoards that money and spends it on BS. There's so many pragmatic ways. I don't set for a second, even in today's world that we live in today, America makes so much profit and so much money that every American citizen doesn't even have to worry about money. But instead of that, we're giving all of our resources and all of our money and all of our taxes to the government for nothing. For nothing. Mm-hmm. For nothing. And that's, I think, is the general consensus right now that you see in a lot of people right now with the shutdown is what the frick am I even doing? Why would, and it goes back to that book. It goes back to Ayn Rand.
Atlas Shrugged.
Atlas Shrugged. Thank you. Gosh, I'm drawing a blank big time today. Atlas Shrugged. If you read that book, we're in that point right now where the producers, the workers, the people, the movers, the shakers of the world, the new, not the ones that are in power right now, but the new ones, they're going, what the frick am I even to do this for? Mm-hmm. What am I going to even do this for? When you're giving 50% of your income to the government, 52%, like Mandami the other day, I want to increase it to 2%. Did you hear that? I just want to increase taxes by 2%. And he packages it in a way and saying, oh, it's just going to be 52%. No, it's an additional 2% on top of the 50% you're paying already. Mm-hmm. So you're okay with sitting down and going, okay, great. I'm going to submit more than half of my money, my income to the government, and then I'm not going to get anything for it?
I agree.
Yeah. Can we just go back to pre-World War I? And by the way,
no, it was worse. It was worse back then.
There was no income tax,
bro. Okay, there
was no income tax.
So, okay, you're right. Pre-World War I. I thought you said pre-World War II.
No,
yeah. Okay, got you.
And guess what we did?
Because World War II, the marginal tax got up to 95%.
Yeah, because we had to pay for that. We had to pay, but we were okay with that because we knew, hey, country had to come together.
It was short term.
Right. It was short term. Pre-World War I. And you know what was high pre-World War I as well, Len?
What's that?
Tariffs.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Tariffs.
Mm-hmm.
Tariffs. Look, I'm going to say this and I'm going to turn it over to you. Or we could talk about something different. Or you could feedback on that. But
I have some feedback about the free market concept in Affordable Care Act.
I'm going to say this one more time. Okay? Mm-hmm. I'm just going to let you go, Len. Go ahead.
Okay. So earlier you talked about the free markets in healthcare. And I think in a pure free market economy, you're absolutely right. I think the problem, and this is just my opinion, I think the problem with the notion of free markets in healthcare is that there are structural limitations to that because, like, for example, if I want to go buy gas at Mobil and I decide that Shell gives me a better price, then I'm just going to go down the street to Shell. My access to gas gives me the ability to make easy, quick decisions. And so the competition between those two agencies are going to keep prices fair because if Shell decides to charge $6 a gallon and Mobil decides to charge $4 a gallon, Shell will be out of business in 3 months. When it comes to my health, if I have a certain type of diabetes or cancer or some heart conditions, I'm really limited, especially the less money I make, to the type of access to care I can get. You know, like somebody like you and me, if something happens to our kids, we can go to the best medical doctors, not only in the country, but in the world for that matter. And so because we have the financial wherewithal to be able to take care of that, we have more choices, we have more options. I think when you look at the people that are the general masses of individuals who struggle, you know, they're not going to travel to go to the world-class dentist that might be 100 miles away. They're not going to go to the best doctor given what their circumstance is and get all of those different blood tests that you're talking about to identify the different biomarkers. They're in survival mode. And so if it's just simply a free market, then left to their own devices, healthcare entities know they can gouge people, just like with the college system. The college system is broken as well because they know they can gouge people because there's no real free market check. So for example, if somebody wants to go to, Vanderbilt University versus Harvard is a private they give you a private education. And so because the large numbers of people want to go to Harvard, they have the ability to be discriminating and they can up the prices. So therefore a pure free market isn't at play there because there's different factors that would make somebody want to go to a Harvard versus a Yale versus a local state university. And the same thing is true, different context in the medical space. If I, as a poor person, as a person that doesn't have access to capital like that, just decides to go to the local doctor, they don't have any structural incentives to lower their cost because individuals are driven by greed and they're driven by personal gain. And so because it's like, okay, you're either going to pay for this because you're going to die if you don't get that service, or you're going to pay the price. And so because of that, they're limited. And so I think that's where the government systems come in and say, look, we need to set ourselves as a check to individual greed that would overcharge people for affordable health. And so the government takes money in the form of taxes from lots of other people, and then they take a portion federally and they pay and they subsidize, and then they allocate certain monies to each state. And so because of that, I agree with you that there needs to be fundamental changes. I just think those fundamental changes are a whole lot easier said than done because there's so many different factors at play, and it's not just a pure free market.
Well, here's my question there. You made a good point. All right. You said the masses. Mm-hmm. We were once the masses. We're still the masses on a certain scale, right? But we're still the masses to those who are making $1 billion a year and that kind of crap, right?
Sure.
You and I are nothing. Mm-hmm. But to those making less than 100,000, less than $500,000 a year, less than $1 million a year, we are in that group of that group. But for those that are under that group, we were once in that group. So we did something about it. Like you and I sacrificed. You and I did certain things that a lot of people wouldn't do. Like we know, like we sat in meetings and said, Len, if I don't get out of this meeting right now, I'm telling you right now, my kidneys are going to have to be amputated from my body just because I got to go to the bathroom and I haven't gone to the bathroom in 4 hours. You and I, you're sitting there sweating to death, but right? Like even in church today, right? I will not get out of that. As soon as worship starts, I will not leave that sanctuary or whatever you call it until the pastor has said, see you later, have a good day, and it's done. I don't care if he's doing a rant. I don't care if he's going 3 hours. I won't leave because I've been conditioned that way now. But I know in my mind, I needed to do those things to separate or to get out of that because in America, the system is the ladder. Right? The ladder, you can get up that ladder regardless of who you are. You could get to whatever you want. The bounty of this land and opportunity is available for you. I do think, because it's biblical, hey, take care of the widows and the orphans of the world, and the poor will always be amongst you, right? I get that. I understand that. But what I do have a problem with is you and anyone else making decisions for me on how I want to tithe or I want to offer to those who chose to do that. And that's my libertarian viewpoint. If you choose to smoke crack and not go to school and not take care of your kids, I shouldn't have to pay more taxes unless I want to, because I would rather take my money and give it to this cause because I want choice. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with writing a $600,000, $700,000 check to take care of a charity or to tithe. I'm okay with it. I know my FIN number. My FIN number, I already know it. I want 25 to 30 million liquid. That's my FIN number because at that point I could spend $50,000 to $70,000 a month on whatever I want and I could still compound.
Financial independence number. That's what you mean. Just for those people who don't understand what that
you
means.
ought to know that. But but Len, you've known me for 17 years. I've always said that. Len, since you met me. What's your number? 33 million, baby. 33 million. I want to get $33 million. If I can get to a $300 million total net worth, awesome. Right? That's my trajectory for me. But If you don't think that way, that's fine. I'm okay with that. I get that. Not everybody's going to be that way. The problem we have here is the government and us as a country really need to reallocate. I know it's pie in the sky. It's never going to happen. But we have so much resource and so much bounty in this country and so much productive value in this country that we are killing ourselves for it. And I think it's what can we do? What can we do? And it all goes back to, we need a third party system. We need someone else in there to crack these guys out of power. And it needs to be violent. Violent because these guys have been so stuck in, and not violent meaning war or catastrophe, or I mean violent meaning like
you mean revolutionary, like
but
quick
not like
change.
Violence in this. Yeah,
you're not talking physical violence. You're talking about a revolutionary change.
No.
I know what you. I understand what you meant. I'm glad you clarified it though. Yeah.
And just to be on that point, statistically, if you're left leaning or liberals, you're 70% more to want to do violent things than you're conservative.
That's not true. That's not true. But I know where you got that statistic. I know where you got that statistic from.
Len,
so
it's Pew Research, and who's the other one? Gallup. They both have those studies. I encourage you to
so for those of you in the audience, when you listen to my colleague talk about violence, look up the different types of violence that he's referring to, because one, you're talking about the left is more likely to engage in protests, and those protests
violently
engage. No. Most protesters statistically are peaceful protesters, but a lot of those protests turn violent because of different situations. Sometimes it's opposition because of police presence or military presence. Sometimes it's to prove a point because they haven't been heard. And so when you look statistically at the numbers, right-leaning people are more likely to engage in mass shootings, to engage in gun violence with murder and things like that. I don't want to get into that. I just wanted to clear the record because I know that that creates an argument where it causes dissension and too much conflict. I don't want to go there, but I just wanted to clarify and parse out your point, because violence in terms of destruction of property versus violence in terms of killing other people, those are two entirely different things. But let's go back, because I really want to put a bow on this Affordable Care Act conversation. And this is what it is that I think, to your point, if we had term limits, and what we talked about on the podcast before is if Congress were not getting paid for the time they were being shut down, there wouldn't be this long shutdown. They'd figure it out. And so the problem right now is that both sides are so entrenched in their position, they don't want to relent, because then their base will say, you were weak and you gave up. And so even though people, generally speaking, want the government to open and function, the cost of that happening is one side ultimately has to relent. And I think what they're going to try to figure out is, how can we spin this in such a way where it looks like we both won and still open the government? That's the only way it's going to happen. Until the right spin message becomes available, they're going to stay stuck in their position, because this is what I will tell you. The Democrats are not going to allow the government to open up unless the Republicans say, look, we have an alternative plan for the Affordable Care Act. And until we enact that plan at the end of 2025, we're going to extend the marketplace tax credits. If they don't decide to do that, Democrats aren't going to give it up, because they have nothing else. Because right now, the Democratic Party is reeling. They don't have any righteous successor to the presidency. They don't even have a totally agreed upon nominee. And so this is what they have to fight for right now, because the next battle is the midterm elections that's coming up in 2026. If they lose this, they're done. They're done.
Done for how many election cycles? Presidential.
I think at least two. I think at least two. I think it would be only if there is a viable Republican that becomes the president. And I don't think JD Vance is that person. At least he hasn't shown himself to be that.
Charisma?
He has charisma. No. He has charisma.
Okay.
Oh yeah, he's very charismatic.
Missing? What do you think he's missing besides the only thing the Democratic Party is holding on to, which is Gavin Newsom's hair? What are they holding on to?
I think JD Vance has not been able to establish his own identity because he is inextricably connected to Trump. And so because of that, if you look at the No Kings rally that took place, we didn't have this on the topic, but there were millions and millions of people at this No Kings rally. And a lot of them were white,
so silly, by the way, older
Americans who voted for Trump before. And so a large percentage of his constituency is concerned about the direction. You mentioned his
approval rating right now. What's his approval rating?
I think it's like 41%.
What? I'm looking it up.
What's
so you could
it's in the 40s, I know. So
what's Trump's current approval? Go ahead, bro.
So you were talking about the rally and how it was silly and things like that. Okay. I don't think that the rally changed anything. I think the idea behind the rally makes perfect sense though, bro. And you ought to believe that as a libertarian. If you look at Trump's track record,
he's 42. He's up 2 points from the earlier month.
I was 1% off. I said 41%. He's
42
up.
to 44. He's up.
Yeah.
He's up. That's pretty high.
Okay.
That's pretty high.
And I think, and here's the thing. As I said before, I hope that he is either wildly successful or an abject failure. I don't want there to be any in between. And so I think
it's binary. It's binary with him. He's either going to be a crash and burn at the end of this administration.
That's what I hope.
Be an astounding. You don't want it to be successful.
No.
It's successful.
I hope.
You're hoping it is successful.
I'm not a Trump fan, but as an American citizen who has a president, I want that president to be effective. I want that president to do what's right for the people. And so I don't tie my like or dislike to the president as a way to want them harm or success or failure. Now I'm about policies. And so I can completely disagree with your views. I can completely dislike you as a human being. That doesn't mean that I want ill will towards you. And that doesn't mean that I want you not to succeed. And I think that's part of the problem is that people attach their emotions and their feelings to each president. And then no matter anything they do, if they like them, it's okay. And if they dislike them, everything they do is a problem and it's not okay. And I disagree with that perspective. And so with, tying this whole thing back into the Affordable Care Act and the No Kings rally, well, I was going to make my point about the No Kings rally, and let's move on to the next topic, is that you as a,
do that.
let me make this last point. Let me make this last quick point. You as a libertarian should see some of the things that Trump is doing as problematic because he is pushing the boundaries of his power. Look at the amount of executive, what do you call the executive
orders?
Yeah, the executive orders that he's issued. He talked badly about Obama for the number of executive orders that he signed. He's broken many, many records, I think, since like FDR. And so when you extend the boundaries of your power, that begins to really push the boundaries of what it really means to be a democracy. And so when people see that in place and he's a narcissist on top of that, it's not illogical to believe that the idea that he wants to have more power, that's not an illogical thought. So the notion behind the No Kings protest makes a lot of sense. The outcome and the effectiveness of it, I think that's another debate for another day, because I wouldn't call it an effective rally.
I don't think it's effective because the premise it stands on.
No, what?
About No Kings.
Okay, maybe we're. Go ahead.
Here's why I say. Here's why I say.
Please help me understand.
Here's why I say No Kings is. You're talking about something that we haven't had since we founded this country. There's no kings in this country, and no one's acting like a king. If he was a king, he would have shut your rallies and your protests down. Instead, he didn't say anything about it. In fact, there was encouragement.
Wait! He didn't say anything about it. You didn't see that AI of him in the F1 fighter jet dropping crap. You didn't see that, right?
He didn't make that though.
It was on.
Look,
it was on his channel, bro. He sanctioned it.
Good satire. Bro. If he was a king, he would have shut that down.
That's not the point, Chris. That's not the point.
Premise. Okay, but how is he a king?
No, the point.
He won the popular vote. He won the electoral vote, and he won the swings. How
okay.
is he a king?
No. It's not the argument is not that he is a king and that he's operating with king. He is abusing his executive power. That's the issue.
Okay, wait a minute.
He's abusing
Donald Trump executive. We're gonna do this. Executive orders issued versus Biden. And I'm
super interested. Now remember,
but I have some really cool data to show you about approval ratings.
Okay, all right. Okay? And yeah, please. I'm very interested to see what that is.
Okay, hold on. How okay, hang on. Executive orders for Obama, Joe Biden versus Trump, all administrations. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Barack Obama, 276. Joe Biden, 162. Donald Trump, 220. So they should be protesting that Obama's a king too.
Okay, but how long has Obama been in office versus Trump?
Two terms, and Trump hasn't finished his term yet.
So and he hasn't even finished the first year of his second term. Stop it.
Wait. But a lot of that was, but here we go. Okay, we got to add this in here too. A lot of that has to do with
undoing with the previous administration. And that's the reason why Obama had all of the executive orders he had, because of all the crap that his predecessor did. Yes. Absolutely.
Oh, come on. Look at these approval ratings. Check this out. All right, look at this. This is interesting. Barack Obama, first term, 68% approval rating. By the time he left, he was at 59. So very popular, okay? Mm-hmm. Bill Clinton, 58, up to 66, baby. Bill Clinton.
Right?
Here's the thing. Bill Clinton was a South. He was smooth, not break, not... The thing that Bill Clinton had that Obama didn't have is Obama still had that in him like Trump has. Bill Clinton was just, he wasn't because Hillary was really the one that was, right? George W. Bush, 57, 34 at the end of his first term.
Because of what happened with the war. They went to war.
Bush, George H. Bush, 51% when he left, 56%. I think that's Bush Senior.
Yes.
Right? He was popular. Why did he not win re-election? That's so crazy.
You're right. He served one term.
Donald Trump, 45, and he's still where he's at. Mm-hmm. And Donald Trump started at 47, and he's at 44 right now. Right? Okay. But he went up last month. So I get the whole thing with the kings thing, but no one's acting like a king. Come on, these guys everyone's doing the exact same thing that everybody else is doing. He's still operating within the legal parameters of the executive branch. The executive branch is there to cut through the fat and do this crap. And he's doing it. And the thing is that he wouldn't be able to get most of the things he's getting done without executive order, simply because Congress, as we all know, sucks worse than he does.
Yeah,
Look,
okay.
Congress sucks.
Okay, so
And by the way, Len, and I'll let you, and I'll stop here too.
Okay.
I'm not trying to defend Trump, but he also had to go up against a Congress and a Senate where they were all working against him on both sides. So it was very difficult for him to lay policy down anyways. It'd be interesting to see if everyone could get their heads out of their you-know-what and say, look, I don't like Trump. He's an asshole, whatever the case may be. But let's just all look at this pragmatically for our country and just work together. And no one wants to do that.
Okay.
No one wants to do that.
And I think that's a good point of convergence, because I agree with you. I believe that. Okay.
So eloquent, by the way, Len. Such respect for that language. I appreciate that.
Stop it. So here's the thing. I believe that Trump is dangerously teetering on expanding the boundaries of his executive power. I believe the only thing that's keeping him in line are the guardrails of the Constitution. I believe that if he had the ability to have more than 2 terms, he would do it, because he looks at people like Putin and he looks at people like Kim Jong-un, and he sees that they can get stuff done because they stay in office. And so the only argument against term limits is that if you have an agenda that takes a large amount of time, it's more difficult to get it done because somebody's going to either succeed you in 4 or 8 years. Having said all of that, I believe that the executive branch is broken right now. And I think that the legislative branch is broken right now. The only one really staying together really is the judicial branch, because
they're moving it fast.
Right.
Fast. It's just tick, 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 tick,
but here's the thing. The thing that keeps them in alignment is the rule of law. And there's a check even within the judicial branch, unlike the legislative and the executive. And what that is they could get disbarred for enacting bad law. And if they go against precedent, then that's a problem. And so therefore they could lose their credibility, their reputation, and their license, which gives them a real incentive to stay in alignment. And they're the one that's the most professionally aligned. And I think that the judicial branch is the very branch that's keeping the credibility of this democracy intact. I think if continuing with Congress, they've been unpopular for many, many terms, because it goes back to this whole idea of us versus them. The last time the United States was really united was unfortunately during Bush's administration, when 9/11 happened. That was the only time. And that was a fleeting moment of time that is long gone. And we're marching more and more towards division. And until some revolutionary action takes place, I'm not talking violent. I'm talking a revolutionary action that changes the course of the executive and or the legislative branch, things are going to be business as usual. Because to your point, the people who are in office, they have a vested interest in self-preservation. And when you have a vested interest in self-preservation, if you're a person who is supposed to speak on behalf of your constituency, there is an inherent conflict within that. So if you are a congressional officer and you're doing what some rich lobbyist tells you to do as opposed to your constituency, you're acting inextricably opposed to what they want. And if you're a president who is a narcissist and who wants to get what he wants to get, then you're doing what's opposed to what you're supposed to do, which is to act on behalf of the people. And so there inherently is a problem. There has to be some type of change. And I don't think I'm going to see it in my lifetime, unfortunately. But
look, I would rather have a narcissist like Trump leading than a corrupt career politician who we know is all corrupt.
Okay. If those are the only two options, I agree with you.
I'll take the narcissist.
Yes, but a narcissist unchecked becomes a dictator in wrong situations.
But I don't have to worry about that because
hopefully,
there's nothing he can do. There's nothing Trump can do to become a dictator or a king in America. And the rule of law has always stated that. Look, here's what gets my gall about it all, though, right? Is it's like, oh my God, he's a king and he's doing it. No, he's not. He's doing all of the things that he has to do to make this thing work. And we all know we needed a barbarian in there. Like, Trump's a barbarian. We know that. Trump is brash. He's a barbarian. He's going to smash and grab, and he's going to be quick and decisive. And we don't have time. He's taking a very militaristic approach to success. And I'm okay with that because that's what I mean by it has to be violent. That's what I mean, that definition. The definition of that isn't the violence of I'm going to hurt you or impugn harm or inflict harm. The definition of violence is like, for example, if
just to jump in about what Chris is talking about, and I want you to talk about your backed up toilet. Go read the book Barbarians to Bureaucrats, so you'll understand the context in which he's speaking. So you mentioned that. Yeah, don't take what he said out of context and say, "Oh yeah, Chris said Trump is a barbarian." He is based on the trend, right. He's talking about based on that. And I hate to defend Trump, but I have to defend you because I care about you more.
I didn't want to mention the book, but I was in my mind because that's where it came from. It's like barbarians to bureaucrats. Look, Trump is a barbarian, right? I'm sure there's plenty of barbarian memes with Trump with an axe and all that stuff.
Sure. I mean,
but Trump is a barbarian, okay? And he's going to go in there and that's what I mean by the violent approach, where it's quick, it's pragmatic, it's decisive, and we just got to get in there. Like, for example, if your toilet is stopped and overflowing and your shower's backed up, you're not going to go, oh, well, we'll take a vote on it. And honey, should we call it? You're going to go, Google, get me a plumber here right now. And you're going to be violent about your approach of getting that done. You're going to be a barbarian about it. Everything else pauses and you go 100% signal in getting that fixed. Trump's 100% signal and going, how do I make this work? Now, is he a narcissist? Of course he is. 100% he is. Is he going to get what he wants done? Yes, that's what gives him the power to be who he is. So we elected him. We knew he was a narcissist. We all elected him, meaning not all of us, but the majority of us did. And we're getting what we expect. This is the product. Because we all know what would have happened if we would have elected Kamala. We would have already been, Xi Jinping probably would have already been the Supreme Chancellor of the United States by this time. Like, and there would have been
Chris.
He would have bought the whole coast of California because that's really what's happening right now anyways, right? Gavin Newsom's like, come on in, right? The reality here is that he's operating within the true and natural laws and means that he does. He can never be a king. He'll never be a king. Our system doesn't allow it. And for people to automatically think that he's doing that and he's evil and all those things, that just leads to how they think. That just leads to how their hearts are and their feelings are. And to live with that type of pressure and that type of anxiety, that's exactly why they need Affordable Health Care Act. Because they're so busy thinking about that, they're not thinking about what can I do to be productive today? What AI class can I take? What business can I start? What YouTube channel can I start? What book can I read, like Len just mentioned, to get myself better so that I'm not a victim and that I can take advantage of this ever-changing system and the fruits of the labor so that I don't wake up 20 years from now and go, okay, government, I need another program from you. That's what makes me paranoid.
Okay.
Is having to wake up and go, oh my God, I can't do this on my own. I need the help of the government.
Okay, so.
Have a great week, Len.
All right, you too.
Next time.
All right, have a good one. Bye.
Conversation has given you clarity on your next steps. Please share this episode with someone who's walking the same path. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss future episodes. And remember, planning ahead isn't just prudent, it's an act of care. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Family Office.